go ahead and start your time. Good luck.
We're going to start with the Sigma, and then milk drink, and then espresso. So we'll go backwards. Everyone comfortable? Sweet. Can I get my music, please? Have everything you need? Pencils? Spoons? Time. Connection. We need it. For without it, we lose the experience of belonging to something bigger than ourselves. True human connections are rooted in small, shared moments like these, created out of kindness, service, and love of people. These are the things that we remember and what connects us to one another. Now, 6 years ago, I had one of those moments, being served one of the most memorable meals that I've ever had. It was a meal served out of a heart of hospitality, generosity, and kindness. Now, you're probably wondering how many Michelin stars this restaurant had. There are no stars, there are no James Beard Awards, and there are no fancy place settings. As a matter of fact, the pork was marinated in 5-gallon buckets like these, with beer and sour orange, cooked on a piece of sheet metal, over bricks, over a fire made out of coffee wood. It was a meal prepared by the La Maria Cooperative, to whom Lucy Galindez belongs, and I will never forget how that meal made me feel. Now, there's a quote about service that has stuck with me over the years. People will forget what you do, they'll forget what you've said, they'll never forget how you made them feel. Now today, in front of you, those menus are yours. Take back with you to deliberation. It has 100% of the information I'm going to go over, so don't worry about writing every little tiny detail down. Enjoy this moment. Please do write down tasting notes and scores before you leave the stage. Let's begin. Today, I'm going to be making a connection between two coffees, both grown at 1,800 meters above sea level in Huila, Colombia. Now, these producers were introduced to us by two incredibly caring importers, Osito Coffee and Nowhere Coffee, both of whom are trying to connect smallholder farms to small roasters like us. Now, this first coffee I've chosen for its dynamic profile, and I'm going to be showcasing it first in your signature beverage, followed by your milk course. This coffee is a new connection for us, made by my good friend Juan Diaz of Nowhere Coffee. It's an advanced natural process omlagan produced by Edison Argote at Quebradita's farm. Now, Edison picks a minimum of 80% fully ripe cherries. He then floats them to ensure to remove any unripes. He then ferments that coffee for 48 hours in food-grade drums. Now, at the end of this first stage of fermentation, he takes those cherries and he dries them for 12 days on raised beds to a moisture content of 20%. And this is where that advanced magic comes from. He takes those dried cherries and he rehydrates them with water, yeast, monitoring the temperature and the pH for 4 days, making sure that the yeast are happy and active. Now, to lock in that incredible flavor that he just created, he finishes drying them in mechanical dryers for 76 hours. He then rests those cherries in Grain Pro bags, locking in all of that incredible flavor. I'm super excited for you guys to share this coffee with me today. It's super sweet, loaded with raspberry, vanilla, and dark chocolate. Now, for your signature course, I wanted to recreate that experience of the first time that I met Lucy, minus the pork, all right? So, in order to balance Edison's dynamic omlagan, I'm going to be representing Lucy's traditional washed pink bourbon through my ingredients. So we start with 84 grams of Edison's omlagan that I've allowed to chill in the hyper chiller without dilution. This is going to give us a sweet raspberry base. Now, to mimic that citric orange acidity in Lucy's coffee, I'm adding 80 milliliters of a freeze distilled orange juice. Now, this orange juice I made by squeezing the oranges, freezing it, allowing it to thaw for 3 hours, removing any excess water, concentrating that orange. Now, that paired with the raspberry is going to give us a new note of blood orange. Now, to mimic that caramelly sweetness of Lucy's coffee, I'm adding in 40 milliliters of a 1-to-1 Demerara sugar to water simple syrup. And Demerara is an unrefined sugar that provides a beautiful sweetness. Just blending them together, it's going to pair awesome with the omlagan. Now, for your controlled dilution, I'm adding in 90 milliliters of a water that we use when we specifically brew Lucy's coffee. I take 4 grams of Apex Labs tonic mineral concentrate, add it to a liter of distilled water. This paired in this beverage is going to give us vibrancy, and clarity. Now, of course, we have to bring balance. Of course, I'm from the Midwest, so I'm gonna be adding a little fat like I normally do, with 80 milliliters of a buttery dairy that comes from Colorado cow. I'll talk a little bit about that in my milk course. Now, to combine all these beverages, ingredients, and to give it a light and fluffy texture, I'm gonna be blending in 3 grams of egg whites. Excuse me while I start this blender. This beverage is going to be slightly chilled. It's going to be fluffy and creamy in texture, and I'm going to garnish it with some freeze-dried raspberries, harkening us back to Edison's Ombligant. Let's write down some ingredients or some tasting notes for your Sig Bev. We're going to start with, on the first sip, you're going to get a vanilla blood orange creamsicle. On the second sip, you will get fruity pebbles and chocolate-covered strawberries. There are no special drinking instructions today, with the exception of one simple request. And that's that you let the sounds, those pop rocks on the fire, connect you to that time when I first met Lucy. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Beth. Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Beth. Joy. About 20 more seconds and we'll move on to that milk course. Everyone ready to go? All right, I'd ask you, if you haven't taken a sip, take one little sip before the next course. Cleanse your palate with the milky. And when I was 5 years old, my grandparents, mostly my grandma Bonnie, would make me a little drink that I loved. Had a little bit of coffee, a lot of cream, and a lot of sugar. Of course, with the permission of my parents, because God knows I did not need any more caffeine. But this was my first connection to coffee, just like most of our customers. This little balanced sweet milk treat with the Ombligant's dynamic profile is just that, a beautiful introduction into this crazy world that we're all in, we love. Let's write down some tasting notes. For the first sip, you're gonna get strawberry and milk chocolate. Now before you go into that second sip, I'd ask you to take those spoons and you'd stir it, fully incorporating the crema, and placing those dirty spoons in those buckets. On that sip, you're gonna get a creamy butterscotch. I'd ask that we'd all wait until I serve everyone, so that everyone can enjoy this experience together. Now today, serving you a 4-ounce milk beverage. It's where I found the most harmonious balance between that sweet creamy milk and that dynamic Ombligant. Now, we start with 65% of Colorado's cows, creamy, buttery milk from an heirloom breed called Guernseys. The Guernseys produce a higher fat content milk. Paired with this dynamic Ombligant, it's gonna be super creamy, but can be too overpowering. So we decided to blend in 35% of Pacific's Barista Series coconut milk. This milk is gonna give it a light and airy texture. Now to bring in a little extra sweetness to balance it and to connect all the flavors together, We've blended in 40 grams of the cryodesiccated Colorado cow milks. Cryodesiccation, just a fancy weird word for freeze drying. It freezes the milk, keeps it under a vacuum while applying gentle heat, removing all the water through sublimation, leaving the fats, the sugars, and the proteins. And this beverage makes it quite special. Not quite like my grandma's, but honestly, it makes it a lot better, let's be honest. Excuse me. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Everyone enjoy. Thank you. After the second sip. About 20 more seconds and record your scores and we'll move on to the final course. Is everyone ready? I say you take one more sip just to cleanse your palate before the espresso course. Let's write down some tasting notes. For your espresso, you're gonna get a tart ripe raspberry, followed by some subtle soft florals like a soft rose. The pleasant lingering 70% dark chocolate finish. Now for the tactile, it is medium in weight. It is round and silky. Now, I'd ask that you would pick up those spheres in front of you. This is going to be the physical representation of those tactiles that we just went over. Feel it in your hand. Now I'd ask that you take it and place it whole side down right there in that little chamber, and make sure you hear a little click. If you have any trouble, let me know, I'll help. Oh, you guys crushed it. That's awesome. Now for the first two courses, we showcase that dynamic omelet, connecting us to modern trends with new fruit-forward processing techniques. But being on trend does not mean that we have to sever ties with all those coffees that have anchored so many of our shops for so many years, washed coffees. I believe connecting traditions to trends brings diversity, and diversity brings balance to our ever-changing industry. Now for your espresso course, I want to do just that. Blending 50% of Omelet to 50% of Lucy's traditional washed pink bourbon, grown on her farm Finca Buena Vista, located at 1,800 meters above sea level in San Agustin, Colombia. This coffee is delicate, and it has subtle florals. And when combined with that dynamic Omelet, it's going to produce elegance and balance in the cup. Now for all three courses, I've dosed 20 grams in, around 42 grams out at 28 to 30 seconds. We roasted both of these coffees on the stronghold for complexity and clarity. Slightly more aggressive, shorter 8-minute roast for that dense pink bourbon, and a slightly softer, longer 9.5-minute roast for that less dense Omelet to keep all those fruit notes intact. Now when I set these espressos in front of you, I'd ask that you would first assess the crema, and please wait until I call time to taste. And when I call time, no need to stir it with that spoon. You're gonna pick it up just like a wine glass, swirling it 3 times, bringing it to your nose, taking in those beautiful aromatics of cherry and raspberry before that first sip. Now this seemingly simple beverage, we all know to be so complex, and it's all about feel. From the producers to the baristas to the consumers, we all feel a love and passion for it. because it's our shared connection. It's why we are here. And just like this mobile, I believe that we all play an integral part. And now, more than ever, I believe that all of us need to invite everyone into our table so they feel welcomed, connected, like they belong. Because that feeling of belonging and that connection and selfless hospitality, I truly believe can spark the change that we all hope to see in this world. Thank you. Time.
Isaiah, Sheese, Archetype. Come on down. Beautiful.
Thanks.
Again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Third time's the charm.
That's what we hope, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
I've been trying to remember the first time you competed.
2009.
2009.
Shh, don't tell everyone.
Wow.
2009.
That was back in my day. I was telling them I was like
Regional Barista Championship.
yeah. I was in South Central. I was in Southeast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually watched 2008 in Atlanta, and I was like, man, I got to compete again.
That's awesome.
And then I competed again in
Yeah.
2009. How did that feel, competing in the first time?
Compared to this?
Well, no, just
Thank God there
don't
weren't these.
compare it. You can't
Thank
really
God there
compare
wasn't
it.
like, even Facebook or MySpace at that time. Good God, I do not want to see those
Not
videos.
MySpace.
Well, there probably was. I don't know. I'm glad there weren't because, I mean, it's like, I think part of this whole competition is a journey, you know? I mean, and it's just how committed you are to the journey and staying the course or not. And obviously, this is my 10th season, so I've been very committed to it. And, you know, it's about growing and learning every season. And some of us are stubborn enough to just keep going after it and just get a little better, a little better each time. And, you know, hopefully you're able to make it on a stage. I've done this. This is my 10th season. I've only made it to the stage 3 times.
3 times, and you won once.
I did win once. Yeah.
And now you're back.
I am. Yeah.
How after winning, how was it preparing for competition again?
Honestly, it was really hard. I think in the past, it's like, you know, my routines of, it's like, how do you get the points? You want to present what you want to talk about and represent. But like, I've just, you know, you're playing that game and you want to represent your company and you want to represent the producer. But like for me, it was like very more science and like fun and let's have a good time up there. So this one was really hard. Knowing that this is like my last dance, like I wanted to say something that was like meaningful for everyone. Yeah.
All right, Michael
So
Jordan.
it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder.
Last dance.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah.
Can we try your coffee?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on up, Frank, Kyle, Morgan. There, oh, there's Morgan right there. Hey, come on over. Have a seat. Standard order. So I've been talking away. Who wants to ask a question?
Hey, sit down.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
Well, leave it on there though. Leave it on there though.
It's the last round. We can kind of like.
You
fiddle
can.
with
Yeah.
whatever we want up
It's the
here.
last round. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man,
Let me have it.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thanks.
That was a beautiful presentation to watch. I think, you know, from the audience perspective, like there was a lot of just components that I think we could feel throughout. I think starting off with the pop rocks, like you just hear that sizzle kind of like crossover.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Across the stage, and then.
So I think it was Miguel that got the groove out, and we actually used the groove. And if you want to know what microns we're rocking on stage, it was 1,000 microns of pop rocks. So
wow, boulders, just boulders,
boulders,
just boulders.
And if you didn't, and it was 3 grams, I think, 2.5 grams. And if you put too much, it was just like it was like startling. So I mean, we literally had to like kind of figure out where the sweet spot of pop rocks were. As dumb as that is, I'm aware.
So who builds all these dioramas?
All right, so normally how it goes is like I pitch an idea and then Jason, you don't want to let it sit for 30 seconds and then swirl it. Jason kind of takes ideas and like runs with them way too far, and I have to say like no. And then I love mobiles, and he got me one for Christmas, and we hung it in the roastery, and it was just hanging there. And one day he was roasting, and he sends me a picture of of the mobile, and he's like, I think I have the idea of what we're doing. And I was like, okay. And time's short. So anyways, he makes the mobile or designs. He sends me pictures of like, I don't know if it was sticks on a string. He's like, it looks cool, right? And I'm like,
No.
oh no. I was like, I did not say that, but I was just like, and then like one of our buddies is like, oh, that's so cool. He's into like Michelin stars and whatever. And so he ran with it, designed it, and then one of my metalworking friends that helped me build the last 2 locations, like he was like the genius behind actually making it work. And there were several times of Jason sending me text messages this long, like, it's not gonna work, but I got a backup idea. I think it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work. The first bend, they put it up and the thing just went and just fell to the ground. And so there's lots of stress building it. You have to sand each one of the spheres. You'd sand like half a gram off to make it balanced. And like the same way with the metal pieces, you'd have to cut them, sand off just like some grams. So it was a labor of love from two dear friends.
I know this is your 50th year competing, but this is your first year competing kind of separate from your team.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about the process and how, was it more challenging or was it easier not have to deal with maybe Jason every day?
We still had that, but no, it was honestly, it was much harder because Archetype, all my early years of practicing, I had to practice in the cafes after it closed. And so it'd be like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, I'd start setting up. And so practices were terrible because like your brain doesn't rest, you're hyper caffeinated, so your sleep stinks. So we finally, as we've grown over the years, we got a roastery and we finally acquired a little training lab. And so the year leading up to 23 when I won and then Worlds, I could actually practice during normal hours. I could actually see my wife and like do normal things. But this year, my wife got a job in Denver, so we moved there. And Sweet Bloom generously opened up their cafe to me to be able to practice in the training lab, but they still run a huge operation. So I was back to practicing at nights, in the afternoon. So it was really hard. And the other thing that was hard is like, normally I always practice by myself. I don't let anyone see anything until like it's semi-okay. But this year we didn't really have that luxury. So I flew Jason in, he brought the table in the week before we got here. Morgan flew in and like, and Miguel was there and I had to like hammer out really bad run throughs. Like one night Miguel's like, and Morgan were like, finish it. And I'm like, it was so brutal and painful. And the first time I practiced this dumb thing, I did it 3 times. It was hideous. And Jason's like, why can't you do it? And I'm like, this is the first time I've touched the thing. And then Morgan walks over and she's like, ling, 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 ling. And it was perfect. And he's like, look, Morgan did it. And I'm like, it was painful. But the problem was we were practicing on a table like this and my long arms were just like, it was brutal. But after Jason left, Miguel and I practiced a ton, like doing it, learning how to reset the thing up. And so, yeah, but it was really hard without like just being able to have my own space to do it. Yeah.
I'm so glad I'm no longer the competitor that's competed the longest in competition. I think it's officially you.
Thank you.
I may be the oldest, but you
Yeah.
competed the longest.
Yeah.
This coffee is phenomenal, by the
Thank
way.
you.
Do you approach competition coffee first or idea first?
Typically it's been kind of coffee first, I'd say, in the past years. There were some times that we would come up with a concept and then fit the coffee to the concept. But I think after, winning with Lucy, and then the idea was actually this year was going to be about legacy. I grew up very modest. My parents weren't teaching me about legacy or like talking about those things because it's not in our vocabulary really. And so the idea was after like working with Lucy in the hospitality that she showed us, the goal was let's buy her a fermenter and let's bring in someone to teach her. Her dad taught her how to process coffee and grow coffee. So it's like if we taught Lucy how to do micro lots so that they could supplement their income with these, like we buy all of Lucy's coffee 100%, like 10 to 20 bags every year. That's it. Kyle tried, but even the years that like it was a lot of money for us, we still we committed to you, we're doing this. And so the idea was to have Juan Diaz and his team to go teach Lucy how to do that. And she could teach her dad, and then she could teach La Mariah, and we could spread out the information. Like knowledge is power, and a lot of those people that have the power don't like to share the information. So the goal was to be able to talk about that. Columbia is the Wild West, as we all know if you've traveled there. And so like I met her in July, we talked, let's do this. I didn't get that coffee until a month ago. And the experiments, Lucy produces it very traditionally. So she washed the cherries before Juan's team got there, and they're supposed to not wash them. So the active yeast and bacteria in the sky would like ferment the coffee. And so when we got the coffee, it tastes like a beautiful washed coffee. But so then we're like, what are we gonna do with the concept? And so we just figured out we're committed to Lucy. We're going to compete with her. Juan introduced us to Edison, and so we tried a ton of his coffees, and like we're just going to figure it out and make it work one way or another. But typically, yeah, in the past it was like a concept and plug a coffee, but the last 2 years, wanting to represent a smallholder farm, a female producer on the stage, it was coffee first, and then man, shift everything and panic and pray.
I mean, between the 5 of us, I think we've seen the barista competition evolve. Is there any advice you would give to anyone in the audience considering competing or back home considering competing?
Judge first. I think, I mean, there's lots of resources online, but like in the early years, I mean, I've never really had coaches. I've had people come and help, but like I didn't have money for coaching. I didn't have, I'd do well at qualifier, and then I would get to this stage and just get hammered. And so, I did 4 years of that, placing top 6 of the qualifier and then getting here. When I was building Archetype, I was like, I can't compete and do a build out. So I judged, and it was like with Layla, Gambari, OG, Ryan Wilbur. And that year after I judged, it opened my eyes so much of like, oh, I'm not playing the same game, And so it told me how to play with the game that I wanted to play, but to get the scores. And so I would say like volunteer a year. Or if you're a competitor that is like struggled, take a year and judge and serve. You'll learn so much and you'll come back even stronger. And it's not taking a year off. It's like going to school for a year, an intense year, and learning, and then you'll come back an insane competitor.
For those of you who don't know, this past year at Worlds, I took Isaiah with me to Worlds as kind of a part of the team. And one of my biggest regrets is not placing third so that I could hold it over him forever, because he has cups printed as 4th best in the world. But this could be a question for you too, but what motivates you to keep coming back, and what is the motivation of pursuing becoming the world barista champion?
It's coming back. I think there's so much inspiration in this room, and like even looking at like like having a first-time competitor be on the stage in finals is like, it warms my heart. Like I definitely teared up, and then seeing a second-time competitor come back. I got to interview Noelle last year, and just to see how much she's improved over a year. It's like there's so much inspiration in the room, and it's like this is when I'm at my best in coffee, is because I have to focus so much on it. And so part of it is like the excellence of that, just like being a part of that. But like, I think just wanting to represent smallholder farms, represent the community that we are just on that stage is like always just been, it's a dream, you know what I mean? Like we've all dreamed of a Reg Barber, you know what I mean? Like it's like, since I was a wee little barista, like you see that trophy and it's just inspiring. And so, this is like our Olympics. This is the best that we can be. And so, just to be a part of that and to be able to represent the States it's a dream come true.
Can you tell us about your very first barista routine you ever did?
Man. Do I have to?
Yeah.
I will for you. I will for you. Listen, okay. All right. This is about, all right. I used 4 coffees in a blend. Let's just be honest. It had Sumatra, it had Indian Monsoon Malabar, it had Costa Rica Lamanita, and it had Ethiopian Mocha Stag. And when you have to talk about all those 4 coffees, back then, I tamped probably harder than anyone in the competition, and people would make fun of me because it was like, bam, and then you would knock the side and tamp again. It was, that's why I said I was glad there are no videos. But back then, it's like we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have those things where you could actually see. So you just had to show up and learn as much as you can. And then, like, I mean, Miguel shot me down as a judge. And, like, Mike Strum shot me down as a judge. And it's like, But
All
they
of
were
us.
very kind, always, right? They were very kind, and it's like you just had to glean a lot of things. But in the early years, I mean, I saw people doing signature drinks with jalapeno and agave, steaming milk and making macchiatos with it. So I would say that that's how far our competition has come. That's also part of the reason why I stayed in, is because it's evolved so much and people are bringing so many things to the table. I knew that if I stepped out, I would not be able to turn that switch on, and the trends and those things would have passed me by because you can't stay on top of it. And so, yeah, but that was an embarrassing time. Thank you. Thank you.
So we've joked about how many years you've competed,
Yes.
but how many is this? What does this make?
This is 10.
10.
This is 10.
10 total. How many finals?
This is only 3.
3 finals.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've missed finals by 1 point. Using a coffee from Honduras that cost $3.90.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah. No, this is 10, and I took 2 years and I judged. So the year that Morgan won in 21,
Boston?
in Boston. I took that year off and I judged quarterfinals and semifinals. Once again, gleaned a lot. Last year, I took off just to serve the community because I love these people. I wanted to give back. And then Jason judged at finals that year too. Josh, he was like, we need people. And I was like, let's go. I got people. Jason thought he was getting a vacation to hang out and just taste tasty things. But yeah, just being a part of the community is, yeah.
Amazing. Do you have anyone at home you want to thank?
Yeah,
I'm
of
sure you do.
course. Yeah, my wife. I
She
feel like
appreciates it.
I put her through. I mean, she went through grad school and her PhD and all those things. So this is kind of, I think, what that is for me. So it's my 10th. I hope I graduate this year. And so for my wife, Amy, yeah, doing all that. Miguel, Sweet Bloom, Robbie, Jason, Chris Kemp to help me build it. And a for real one, we joke about to Gabe. He bought me one of those suckers.
He did. Gabe,
Yeah,
he's tearing
yeah.
up because it's a really special, sweet moment. But the trophies changed a couple years ago, and lots of things happened. But Gabe had one made for Isaiah. Yeah. To Gabe.